Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live episode of Soul Talks with Alka. Due to the stay-at-home policies, we're now airing our show live every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Our hope is to create conversations around the challenges we're all facing during COVID-19 and to build a space where we can all learn from each other. So I join you today to post questions and comments for our guests. Mortality, as you know, is on everyone's mind. You can't get away from it even if you tried. Everywhere you turn, you hear death numbers, you hear social media talking about death. Death is what everyone's speaking about. So today I have with me Alison Kosberg. Alison has been an attorney for 35 years. She's going to talk to us about wills because today, at no other time, our wills become more important. So Alison, welcome to our show.
Hello, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Alison. So Alison, I read an article today from New York City that said that wills have risen by 143% during COVID-19. Have you seen the same?
I have seen many more phone calls and clients reaching out to me, realizing that they don't have their wills or they always meant to start with their wills.
Yes.
We get a lot of New Year's resolution wills.
Yes.
Very big come January.
Yes.
And then come summertime, we have our vacation wills. And then we have the end of the year holiday. Oh my God, I started the year before. Let me get it finished with Alison.
Wow, you kind of have like a gym cycle with wills.
Yes. And now with this crisis situation we're in, everyone's realizing they should have had paperwork in place. And it doesn't hurt. You won't die from a will, I promise.
That's
not
true.
Painful.
It's not painful. So people say that, you know what, if I don't have anything, I don't have any assets, why do I need a will? Do you need to be rich to have a will?
You don't have to be rich, but everyone has some sort of asset.
Yeah.
More or less, we hope they have something. Everyone doesn't have to have a house, but if you have a bank account, things like that, if you have nothing written, then it won't go the way you may want it to go. It will go through intestacy, and someone else will decide. Basically, you may decide that I have this bank account. I want it to go to my child, whatever. Basically, that decision, it won't happen like that. If you're married, it will go to your spouse. If you have something in writing, then your wishes of distribution will be done. Also, by having a will, you save money, because if you don't have a will, you have to go through intestacy, and you have to pay for your surety bond, which is an insurance bond, which is extra cost based on the value of the estate. So it's much cheaper to just have a document, basically with legal counsel.
With legal counsel. So let's talk about the basics of the will. So I know there is a will, there's a living will, there's a power of attorney. Can you go through a little bit of that and give us a little bit about what each of those mean?
Yes, well, let's start with a will, a regular will. All right. A will is a document that is written in writing saying how you want your assets, your belongings distributed. All right. If you have children, it would decide on who would be their guardians and their trustees, which is very important. For many people, the hardest thing is to decide on who their guardian and trustee would be. And as I tell to many of my clients, if you're going to pick your parents, then you have to give me a successor, because we're supposed to outlive our parents.
Right.
But in this crazy time right now,
you don't know.
You never know what can happen.
Right.
So if you have it in writing, it's all written down. It would have an age that you would want your child to get the money. For an example, 18 is very young, but that's majority. 18, they're going to college. If through intestacy, 18, they would get it. There's no trust set up or anything. There's a lot of things you'll have to think about. But if you want your wishes to be respected and understood, you need to write them down. And I promise it doesn't hurt.
Right. And so now what is a living will?
A living will is like an advanced directive, like a medical type of thing. Saying that in the event there is no hope, etc. And as they may say many terms of pulling the plug, etc. If there is no hope, my wishes are that I do not want to be kept on life support. Now, the living will gives instructions. It gives instructions to the person you designate, telling them that I want you to express to the doctor and the hospital that these are my wishes.
Got it.
Many people think that when they're appointed, they're the ones who are making the decision. And this is very important. It's not that person's decision. I have my living will. I already wrote it down. All you're doing is being the messenger of the document, of telling the doctor and the nurses, this is my mother, my father, my brother's, sister's wishes. And I'm just complying. And I'm not making that decision to pull the plug per se. And it's important to understand that, because a lot of people feel, oh, I have to make this decision. It's not. The decision has been made already. But if you don't have a living will, that it's not in writing. And if you look back to that Terry Schreiber case many years ago, a woman who was on machines and did not have a living will, and her husband knew what her wishes were, and the family got involved, etc. And the parents, didn't want to pull the plug on her, the instructions, but the husband knew what the wife wanted. If she would have had something in writing, we would not have had all this pain and extra discourse and suffering. So it's important just to write it down.
Right. And I know that if the family wants it, the hospital now wants to see the living will, right? Because they want to make sure. And a lot of people, they call it a DNR also, right? Is that the same thing?
It's very similar. Do not resuscitate. Usually when you're admitted to a hospital, first thing they will ask, do you have a living will? Do you have this paperwork?
Got it. And so now what is the difference between a will and a trust?
Well, a trust is a different type of distribution of your assets.
Okay.
Right. It's totally different based on your estate planning, whatever you might want. If you want to have a set of trusts as opposed to having a last will and testament.
Okay. Is that more complicated than a will?
Yes, all depending on trust. Yes, it could be, absolutely. And there's more involved, and that has to do a lot with estate planning, etc. Now, you had also asked, and I keep losing my earphone, I'm sorry.
That's right.
It's slipping out, about power of attorneys.
Right.
And power of attorney is a very important document. The power of attorney can be used tomorrow for any reason, once it's signed and executed. And basically, you're acting for that person. You're doing whatever is necessary on their behalf. Okay.
And so let's say somebody has to go to the hospital now and they don't have a will, right? You're sick. You have to go to the hospital because of COVID-19. What is the quickest thing they can do so that their family is protected?
If there's a situation like this, excuse me, I don't know if it's going to work. It's fine. Thank you. My husband's trying to help me with better headphones. Sorry.
That's okay. That's what marriage of 39 years does.
Thank you. If we had a situation, and I've had other situations without COVID where I've had clients call me from the hospital to say that they're ill, they're sick, they need a will, etc. We have gone to the hospital. I've gone to the hospital with one of my other staff and another member, or my husband or my sister, whoever's available to help us to do it.
But now you can't do that, right? Now
I know it's a problem. And we have a situation where someone's in assisted living and needs a power of attorney to be signed. And I'm going to get her the document, and I'm going to stand outside the window, and she'll sign it inside, and I'll notarize it. We'll pass it. We'll figure it out. It's an issue.
It's an issue. But so then, is that time? Do they do a will or do they do a power of attorney?
In the hospital, it all depends how bad it is. I would say usually we try to just do a power of attorney, just so to get everything done. I haven't done many wills in a hospital. I've gone to hospitals, assisted livings, nursing homes to do power of attorneys. And to be very honest with you, when I do go, I feel really good because I'm really feeling like I'm helping,
Right. Absolutely.
And my next vocation, my plan, when I retire one day, is really to assist seniors, because I really feel they're a missing population. And if there isn't somebody with a voice for them, then it's a real problem. And when I go in with just saying hello with a smile, it's amazing. So when I do that, it really, really makes me feel good that I'm doing something right.
Absolutely. So Anju is asking, are handwritten wills valid?
Well, in wartime they are, but in this COVID situation, if you had a written will with some witnesses, would it be acceptable? It probably would right now because what's going on. Okay. But I would say if you did it now, once we're over this, you get a regular written will. The concern is with some of the different execution of the wills right now, if you just go with that, what if you need it later on?
Right.
If anything done now like that, I would make sure I have an official will afterward.
Got it. Okay.
After we're
So
passed.
now, a lot of people, say, you know what, now I'm going to get LegalZoom because there's social distancing and there's like online things. What can they miss if they don't choose an attorney? Because this is an important thing. If you can do it on your own, I know, but you really need someone to guide you. Where does an attorney play a role in this?
Well, I mean, I'm not familiar with these sites because I don't go on them because I prepare my own wills, etc., for the clients.
Right.
But you're just buying a form. It's just a form. I know there are some that you could dial up, and I think there's a legal counsel that it might advise you a little bit.
Right.
But to me, a will should be done with an attorney giving you advice. For an example, there are certain things in a will that you need that you wouldn't even understand, like distribution. There's per stirpes and there's per capita. And
can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Sure, which I will. Per stirpes is, think of a tree that's branching out, so it goes on to the next generation. Now, many people leave everything to their spouse, and if their spouse is not alive, they leave it to their children. And they leave it to their children per stirpes, many, because if, God forbid, their child is not alive, it goes to the grandchild. So we think of a tree that keeps branching out, keeps going and going. I don't know about the LegalZoom, whatever it might be. I wouldn't think they're expressing any of it and having this discussion with the client. Then there's per capita. Per capita means that if you have two children per se, and one of them, God forbid, is deceased, everything goes to the other one. It would not go to your grandchild, etc. So there's a lot of technical things. Additionally, I don't know if these LegalZoom are expressing, how do you get it executed properly? You need two witnesses. You need a notary. There's certain things, you want to make sure the document says you don't have to post the bond. So I'm not that familiar because I don't look at these things, but I would say that you should get legal counsel, if not me, someone else. There are plenty of attorneys out there, but definitely give them the opportunity to help you. It's not a long process. I promise you'll survive.
Yeah, no, it is definitely not, and it's an important process because I write about it all the time, Alison, and everybody says that I want to do it. And recently I know of somebody, there was parents who were traveling with their kids. The parents died and all three kids are left, and now nobody knows what to do with them. They're young and everybody's running around trying to figure out who's going to take care of the kids, what's going to happen. So there's unnecessary hassle that has happened that didn't need to happen if there was a will and there was a directive.
Absolutely. That's a shame, but it really just has to be written down, and you'll feel better when it's done.
Yeah.
You'll feel better. It's one less thing to concern. You'll know that everything is taken care of.
Right.
I would think it relieves some of the tension, the stress.
Right. Besides, doing paperwork through a window, like Alana said, we're living in crazy times. But what else has been so crazy that you have seen during COVID-19 as far as wills and, living wills, or any other things that have happened that's been unusual for you?
Well, I had a client who was very interesting. She wanted her will done, and we did it, and right away because she was leaving for China because she was afraid that she lived alone, and she was afraid if she got sick, she'd have no one to take care of her. So she was going to China, be quarantined for 2 weeks, and then she would stay in China till everything passes here. And she was working remotely there, and then she'll come back to the U.S. So initially I said, "Why are you going to China?"
Right.
I mean, why would you go to China? I had another client who also, they were selling a house, whatever it was, and then they said they're leaving for China, and I said, "Why?"
Yeah.
And she goes, "We'll be back, but we'll let them quarantine us for 2 weeks, and then things are better there." So that I found very unusual. Why are we going there? When it
came from there.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. So for people who are watching and people who are listening to your show, what is your advice to them about wills?
My advice to them would be that they should really, contact their attorney or counsel. They certainly can contact me, whatever they like, but they should, look to a lawyer, because you're paying the lawyer for their expertise and their
Absolutely.
experience and their advice. And,
Absolutely.
you know, and as lawyers, we're advocates. So it's not just a job, it's a vocation. And
Yes.
they want to help. They want to help you. Just give them the opportunity.
Right. And what would you tell them about, for someone who's still sitting on the fence about a will, what would you say to them?
I think it's time that you got off the fence and listen to Alka and Alison.
And Alison. And if Alison stands up tall, you will listen to her.
Yes, because Alison doesn't sound tall maybe, but Alison's 5'11" still.
Yes, Alison's very tall.
Yes. And Alka, very importantly, I want to thank you for everything you do to the community and how you help. And you really, you're just a wonderful, wonderful person, and your family have known you for so many years. But really, thank you.
Thank you, Alison. Thank you for joining us. Thank you today, Alison, for coming in and spending a few moments. And I've been talking about wills, but maybe once they hear it from a professional, from an advocate, from someone who can advocate for you, they will actually do the will. So if somebody's listening and you haven't yet done your will, please, please, please do it. And also for next week, this month is Mental Health Month. So next week we have Sonal Kulkarni. She is a psychotherapist. She's going to be talking about the rise of depression, addictions, alcohol addictions, and domestic violence, and everything that she has seen in her practice. So join us again next week. Till then, we're all in this together. Stay strong, stay safe, and we'll see you here again next week. Thank you. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Soul Talks with Alka. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alison.
Thank you, Alka.